This is Jason Spinner from 1608, Class 190, my persuasive speech on how the government should not limit processed food production. I've set a timer for 4 minutes with a maximum of 5. Instructor Thomas, please start your timer now. This was my persuasive speech on how the government should not limit processed food production. When I first saw this topic, the first thing that popped into my mind was overpopulation. It was less about the food and it was more about the mouths that needed to be fed. The population of Earth continues to grow exponentially and the supply of food is being pushed to its limits. From an article called Commodity Prices Rise, they report that the prices of commodities have continued rising at an unsettling rate to consumers. The fact of the matter is, if we think about supply and demand and we think about the laws of inflation, that those two factors are making it harder and harder to feed our families. From the group Tommy Moore, they write about how the World Bank says that in 2010 to 2011, wheat prices have more than doubled and the price of corn, sugar, rice, and oil had skyrocketed. And that meant millions of people were struggling to feed their families or just go hungry. And that's the shame of it. Is the fact is there are people starving all around the world. And it's not that they don't want to grow food or they can't grow food, but there just isn't simply enough food to go around. Mark Dahl reminds us that in his report, Food Safety, that one of the luxuries Americans enjoy is the access to the safest and most abundant food supply in the world. The farmers that we have in America are fewer and fewer. They face natural catastrophes with weather and other such means and problems, and it's harder to get food on the plates. Author Melissa Carson reports that over the course of the 2010 monsoon season, Pakistan battled an unprecedented catastrophe when it was hit with the worst floods in its history. And during 2010, it was 80% of their food supply was affected by rain. It's wrong of us as Americans to think that it won't happen to us. It was the same attitude that in 2001 to think we would never get hit with a terrorist attack. And it's also wrong for us to think that famine would never affect us as well. And that's why I really did like this slide. This was the old traditional argument on the left of how they doctor the chickens up, how you make a chicken bigger to feed these people, and the natural chickens are much smaller. The fact of the matter is you have to feed the people. You can't just not feed the people. On the picture on the right is the seed bank in Norway, and they save seeds from around the world in case of natural catastrophe or other disasters, preparing for the worst. Now, it's not wrong to want to only eat wholesome food. Actually, hey, it's a good thing. But the processed foods have all been labeled as bad. While some foods are not as nutritious as the farmland foods of America, the testing and evaluation of processed foods is tainted by companies who have a vested interest in keeping these foods from being in the supermarkets. People also will argue and say that the processed foods are being linked to diseases like cancer, diabetes, and obesity. Though granted, these diseases can come from a number of sources. I'm a fireman. Firemen die of cancer a lot, all the time. It doesn't just come from processed foods. So when we qualify statements like it's always cancer, diabetes, and obesity that comes from processed foods, that's not necessarily a fair statement. But there is a solution, and the solution is very simple: accountability, education, and making informed choices. Mark Dahl reports that the Food and Drug Administration ensures that injury, such as disease or illness, will not result in substances in food by closely monitoring the food supply. Now, this differs from monitoring for food hazards, and that's the responsibility of the food handler, where harm is possible under those normal conditions. That the U.S. food supply has expanded globally, and many types of food come from areas where the food safety standards are less stringent than those of the United States. It's not up to big government. It's not up to the FDA or food producers to tell the population what they should or should not eat. That should reside with the population after they educate themselves, and that's why this solution is important. The good news is that this solution will work. We can live in a world where the population has enough to eat. Going back to Mark Dahl, he says that medical advances have made it possible for people to live longer, creating an aging population that's more susceptible to disease. But this is the same technology that is used to create food products. So the science is able to keep up with the technology. Going back to our earlier picture from the gardens and crops over in Kenya, is that they were trying, from a report called Trying to Overcome Famine in America, they write that the Ethiopia actually produces more maize than East African neighbors Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania combined, but most of the Ethiopian farmers are substance growers, and only 30% of the food that they actually reaches the market. The technology is available. We can feed the world. It is possible to do. But we have to take action. We have to take action. We need to take it today. Go out and get educated. Go to the FDA website and begin your own research and get your questions answered. Go to the USDA website and find out what food safety and standards are all about. You don't want or need Big Brother dictating to you what's good or bad. Get informed, make your own decisions. At this point, please stop your timers, and that concludes my speech. My reference page. Thank you so much for watching.